Hey guys, what's going on? This is your boy Christian Israel, and you are tuning into the New Creation Capital Podcast, episode 24. This is a place where we discuss what happens in the world today, where we talk about stories that focus on current events, the stock market, and digital assets. This is a new you, a new future, and a new creation. Today is Thursday, April 16th. Apparently, some of you guys are getting your stimulus checks. But today, we're not going to talk about that. Instead, we're going to talk about a few things. Before we get into that, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Of course, you guys know you can hit us up on Apple Podcasts, listen to us on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and of course, the Anchor platform where you can either partner with us or message with us. We've been having some engaging conversations on our Twitter, which is at New Creation Cap. You can find us right there. Pretty good place to find us. Of course, you can see us on our YouTube channel where some of you are watching right now. And make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, get the algorithm going for us, guys. Thank you guys for those who are tuning in to us. And of course, you can find all of our information all in one place on the Publish OX blog, crypto blog site, where we seem to be getting the most conversation going, because that is the target that we go after, the people we talk to, the people we conversate with, and the people that we give the news to. So before we go into news, speaking of stimulus checks, I want to go ahead and look at this real quick and show you that this is what I got so far. So this is what I'm looking at. Payment status not available when I go to check. So I've never given them, not in the last, 10 years, my bank account information, but I have filed my taxes. So we will see what that goes. That is as of 10:30 this morning. So we will see where that goes. And speaking of, let me see if I can find this from the digital asset investor. I saw him have a tweet earlier today. Now let's see if I can find it. His tweet was referring to something that caught my eye and I thought was pretty interesting. Let's see, is it here? Let's go through his pictures real quick. So the digital asset investor, if you guys do not know, he also has the same payment status. For those who do not know, let's see, I don't know, maybe it's an old tweet. Okay, so I will not be able to find it at this moment. Anyway, the digital asset investor has a great channel. Go check it out. Today I checked out his stuff. I read his stuff. That's why I ended up tweeting about my own token, or my own lack of a payment. So I hope you guys are doing well today. I hope everything is going well with you guys today. The story of the day is basically going to talk about the IMF video, and they had their news conference this morning with the IMF Director. I'm just going to call her KG for short because I am horrible with names. But the story of the day that's kind of going to go under the radar until it hits later is the jobs report. 10 years of spectacular U.S. job growth right here. Let's see if I can get this out. Right there. Boom. 10 years of spectacular U.S. job growth nearly wiped out in 4 weeks. How insane is that? This is from the NPR.org, and it goes on to talk about the number of people filing for unemployment climbed up another 5.2 million. Look at this. 5.2 million last week as the toll of the nation's economy dive amid the pandemic continues to mount. The number is down from the revised 6.6 million in the week that ended April 4th, the Labor Department said. But, however, we can see this right here. But in the past 4 weeks, a total of 22 million have filed jobless claims, nearly wiping out the gang since the Great Recession. Wow, that is insane. 22 million people have dropped out all the gains in the last 12 years. All the jobs gone. All of them. Somehow the stock is going up, but that's not the case today. There's a little chart here, by the way, where you see the recession in 2008 here, okay, 7 million jobs. And then this is not a logarithmic chart, but this is right there. And you fast forward over here to 2020, and then you have right here all the jobs. So 7 million is what was created out of that recession. All of them are gone now. On March 21st, 3 million of them. On March 28th, March 11th, we're right here. So that's a lot, guys. That is pretty much a lot. That's from the U.S. Department of Labor. It says here, the unemployment rate is expected to surge in the coming months, with many full-time workers pushed into part-time jobs or not working at all. The economy lost 7,000 jobs in March, ending 113 straight months of increases. And overall job losses are likely to be 10 to 20 times that big in April, says Dante D'Antonio, an economist at Moody's Analytics. He quotes here saying, the speed and scale of job losses will be more similar to a natural disaster than a typical recession. In 4 weeks, the crisis has erased job openings at a rate that took the Great Recession 9 months to match. So in 4 weeks, we have done what took 9 months. That's crazy. While the first wave of layoffs tend to hit hospitality, energy, and retail workers, you're talking the oil companies, right? The hotels and the people who do, clothing, bars, shops, stuff like that. The current round is affecting broader swath of economy. Okay, Gregory Dacko, the chief economist at Oxford Economics, says that the April unemployment report is likely to show a 3.4 million job loss in business services, which include architects, lawyers, consultants, advertising professionals. So here's what we're going to see, right? We're going to see, this is actually, he told that to the Wall Street Journal, but what we're going to see here, if I can zoom this up, right? So you're going to have the basis of the people who make the country run, right? The people that we see every day, we interact with every day. However, we don't really understand the importance of their job until it's not there anymore, right? So that's your bars, that's your Uber drivers, that's your restaurant owners, that's your hospitality, that's your hotels, that's your barbers, that's your hairstylists, that is your even the people who come clean your house, the people who take care of your kids, the school teachers, the principals, those underlying, we call that middle America. We call those people the backbone of America, right? The people who make America run. Then you got the people who pay the people on top, who get paid by the people who make America run. Those are your lawyers, your bankers, your architects, right? Those guys are now, because we're not paying them, are now losing their jobs because they can't pay their bills. This is literally Reagan trickle-down economics in reverse. This actually shows that trickle-down economics does not work because, in that case, if the rich are making so much money right now, the stock market going up, which we'll check here in a second, then why are people at the bottom losing? Instead, now people at the bottom are losing their jobs, then the people in the middle are losing jobs, and the people above them, yet somehow people are making a lot of money out of this recession. So last thing I want to check before I don't know, what do you guys think about that? Hit us up on Twitter. I've had some interesting, by the way, China is getting ready to launch their national blockchain platform next week. If you haven't seen that, I retweeted this by L Crypto King. I talked about the digital yuan a couple weeks ago in a few episodes. Let's see, what episode did we talk about the digital yuan? Right here, episode 18, we talked about the digital yuan. You can go check it out on the publish. You can, again, audio or video, whatever you choose, you can watch that. We've been talking about the Treasury dollar. We are getting all the topics, including the big bank short. We are a brand new podcast, but we are hitting the topics that you guys want to hear about. All right, so last but not least, let me make sure here. Let's go ahead and check and see what's going on in the market watch. And see, right now, the NASDAQ is down. I'm sorry, I just flipped all around. Here we go. Let's see. We have the Dow. There we go. Now it's all set in order. So we got some, not really volatility, just kind of settling because that just went up and down in that little part. So we got the Dow up 0.06%. It's midday right now, only sitting at still sitting at 23, basically even on the day. The S&P sitting at 0.82%. Somehow the banks are up 2% though. How is that possible? Right? All the banks are saying buy the stock, but behind the scenes, and I'll talk about this article maybe later tomorrow, how they're saying the banks are expecting a massive recession and that they're seeing lower gains, but somehow they're telling you to buy the stock. Gold is sitting even. Oil is up 0.86%, a little less. We see that 23 million jobs created since the financial crash are all gone now. All right, so let's jump into the story of the day where we have the conversation of the Monetary Finance Director, International Monetary Fund Committee on board. They just had their spring meeting this morning where they had a meeting. There's also the director from South Africa on this conversation too. I'll play those two at the end. I want you to listen to what she says at the end. But what she says more importantly is the fact that she is talking about SDRs, what they need to do immediately as far as the private sector is concerned, right? Which is crazy to me. So she talks about debt relief, SDRs. If you guys don't know, SDR is another word for XRP. Standard Digital Reserve is what SDR stands for. And access to quick liquidity with help of the private sector. So this is what she talks about. So let's dive in. We'll hit the end of this meeting. This was just this morning. And then we'll close out, which is not much today. Just close out how we always like to do. So let's jump on into the video.
A time constraint. But the themes of the questions are, can you characterize the discussion on the SDR in the IMFC and where does it stand? Would an SDR, a new SDR allocation help the IMF's member countries in the crisis at this point, and how? And then the idea that has been put forward of using existing SDRs and for some of those SDRs to be used in a transfer from the advanced economies to the poorer countries. How could that be done? Those are the three themes coming through on the SDR. Managing Director, I'm going to turn to you first and to the Chairman if he would wish to come in as well.
The meeting discussed what we have and also what might be there in the future. And some of the members did bring the idea of issuing new allocation of SDRs. That is not a topic that at this point we have full consensus. But I want to stress that where we do have full consensus and everybody in the membership is on page, is action now. Do what we can right now. And in that sense, one of the ideas that is being now carefully reviewed is right now we do have existing SDRs. Some advanced economies have them but don't really need them, whereas some developing economies, emerging market developing economies, could make good use of them. They need them. And how we can make it possible to deploy on larger scale existing SDRs in support of developing countries. We are taking the message from the IMFC, consensus on this topic, and we will work immediately on what more we can do. For those who may not be familiar with the matter, SDRs of advanced economies have been used to boost the poverty reduction and growth trust. Therefore, there is a precedent, and the question is how to build on a larger scale the deployment of this resource for the benefit of developing countries.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, would you like to comment?
No, I think much just suffice to say that, I mean, obviously, the preference would be for permanent resources for the IMF. The SDR would have reflected permanent resources. But we are in a crisis. Whilst we might still be engaged in conversation to get permanent resources for the IMF, we are faced with a human catastrophe here that we had to deploy everything that we could deploy immediately in order to address this crisis.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Look, turning to another theme is some questions from Bloomberg again, South China Morning Post and so on, asking about we see the support being given to the low-income countries, the poorer countries. Is there anything in this package of support for the middle-income countries, including on the issue of debt relief? And on the issue of debt relief, can we say anything about how the IMF sees the role of private creditors and the private sector in supporting debt relief?
Yeah. Well, let me start by stressing how important the decision taken yesterday by the G20 countries with the strong participation of everyone, both more traditional and emerging donors, how important this decision is to go to a standstill of official bilateral creditors to benefit the low-income countries. These are billions of dollars that would be at their disposal now. We all endorse, we welcome this achievement. Actually, President David Malpass and myself were on the record to call for it, and we take it as a huge outcome of this week, that in a record short time, as the governor said, in the spirit of global solidarity, that has been achieved. Of course, there are other countries that are under the burden of debt that don't fall in this category, and both the World Bank and the IMF are committed to look into debt sustainability issues on a country-by-country basis, see what more can be done to lift up countries' capabilities to deal with the crisis and to ease that burden. Which takes me to the first part of the question: what is in the package for middle-income countries? And there are three things in this package for middle-income countries. One, the short-term liquidity line. It is a very, as many governors said, this is a very useful, very timely new tool in the toolbox of the IMF. It allows quick access to liquidity at a time when many countries are experiencing problems, and that is also a way to get funding without bearing the a higher cost that a precautionary line would carry for countries, and without locking in IMF resources on a larger than necessary scale. Secondly, in the emergency financing, everybody is eligible, and we do have middle-income countries reaching out to the fund. They are in the pool of those that are the 102 coming to the fund for immediate assistance. And thirdly, we are very conscious of the importance to be available for countries that might decide to expand their own buffers on the basis of tapping into IMF precautionary resources. With regard to private sector debt, unanimously the IMFC members joined this call for private creditors in the context of low-income countries that stand still to join with the same reflection on terms. And of course, we are very mindful that in this crisis, we do need everybody to chip in so we can prevent a risk of unnecessary insolvencies, either at the level of private sector or when we talk about the capacity of governments to stay strong. Again, the spirit of solidarity, bringing everybody together. The IMF got encouragements from the IMFC to step more actively in this area of private sector engagement. And what we want to see is to give comfort to private lenders, to reverse the outflow from emerging markets by projecting that picture of strength in action that emerging markets are taking. So there is an additional role for the fund in our surveillance function to provide that sense of certainty to private investors so we can see a reversal of that highly undesirable $100 billion outflow from emerging markets.
Thank you, Kristalina. Mr. Chairman, would you like to comment?
No, there is nothing for me to add. I think she has dealt with the facilities quite comprehensively.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I'm going to take the last bucket of questions, and I will come to you first, Mr. Chairman. The questions are really around Africa from Heather Scott, AFP, Eric Martin at Bloomberg. And Eric has a specific question about South Africa, Mr. Chairman, so I am going to give that one to you. It's a simple question, at least, not sure about the answer, but the question is, how far is South Africa from approaching the IMF for help? So there's that question. And then there's another question, again, Bloomberg, AFP, asking, has enough been done? It's a more general question on Africa. Has enough been done so far to help African countries through the steps that have been taken? The UN Economic Commission for Africa said that the continent needs immediately emergency stimulus of 100 billion. Do we have a reaction to that? And it's linked to a question from Heather Scott about the fragility of low-income countries and the risk of instability, including protests. And she notes where there have already been some protests, and she mentions South Africa again. So, Mr. Chairman, over to you, and then I'll turn to Kristalina to close us out more broadly on Africa. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Firstly, South Africa is a member of the IMF, which is why I am in this chair in the first place. South Africa is a shareholder in the World Bank. We did take a big facility with the World Bank before to build electricity generation capacity. We have utilized IMF facilities before. One facility which was the contingency financing facility, and that was in our transition to democracy when we were faced with a drought and we needed to import grain, and we approached the IMF for that facility and we utilized it. And that is a facility we utilized before. Borrowing decisions are decisions that get taken by the National Treasury. How far they are in engaging the IMF, it is a question best directed to the Minister of Finance. With respect to the continent and the resources that are required, there is no doubt that the continent requires the resources. We must actually be seeing ourselves as one global system, one global financial safety net. The World Bank had made announcements about what they are doing from the World Bank side, including participating in this debt relief initiative jointly with the IMF, and the President of the World Bank and the MD have been at one on this one. And the other multilateral development institutions are also coming to the party. Do we know whether it is enough? We would not know whether it is enough. What is important is that we deploy these resources, and if we think as we are going on, we think that they are not enough, most of the governors did indicate that we should continue to mobilize, actually to capture it in towards the closing. The managing director had been mandated in accordance with the global policy action plan that was actually tabled in the IMFC to continue on her journey to mobilize the resources. She has done remarkably well that we were able to raise by the end of this meeting 70% of what we thought we would actually need immediately. Well, once again, well done, Kristalina.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Kristalina?
Well, the short answer to this question is stay tuned for tomorrow's Mobilizing with Africa meeting, that together with David Malpass and with the strong support of the African Union President Ramaphosa, the South African President, the African Union Commission, and the United Nations. We are going to discuss exactly that. We have done quite a lot. Africa is actually a high priority at both the IMF and the World Bank in terms of deploying our capacity, especially for us, the emerging financing capacity. Africa is a continent that was on the move just before this COVID-19 crisis hit. Many countries were growing 6% and more. But Africa also has security problems and complex issues. I'm thinking of the Horn of Africa, of the Sahel. Now is the time to make sure that we don't lose the momentum of this Africa on the move, and that we are mindful of the risks for the parts of Africa that had problems even before COVID-19, and mobilize very strongly with Africa. Save lives, save jobs, save hope, protect the future.
Thank you very much, Kristalina. Look, that brings to an end this press conference on the IMFC. Thanks very much for joining us today online. We really appreciate your focus on these issues.
I don't know, guys. So what do you think? That's pretty much it. Did you hear that little last part? Tune in tomorrow for some kind of thing they're going to do with South Africa. Wow. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Again, this is the New Creation Capital Podcast. We are tuning in to you, and thank you guys for tuning in to us. If you didn't catch yesterday's episode where the IMF director is talking about, that same woman is telling you to keep spending money, but in this video just now, she is telling you what? She is telling you, well, hey, we'll do what it takes. We'll do what it takes. We had the liquidity. We'll do what it takes. We'll partner. But she's telling the banks to keep swiping that credit card. Keep swiping that credit card. Keep swiping that credit card, guys. Also, let me know what platform you tend to listen to us on. Or do you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Spotify, or the Anchor? Or do you prefer YouTube? Or are you getting our content on our Twitter page? I would like to know if you are getting our content on our Twitter page, because that's a place that I would make sure that we have some information going. So, all right, sorry about that quick cutoff. It never ends. Every time I go to do the podcast, phone rings. Yesterday, right? I had the driest mouth. I could drink all the water in the world, but it did not work. I have neighbors banging upstairs behind. Today, the mailman is delivering the packages that I've been on. Literally, like my face mask finally got here, and then a pair of pants. But man, it never ends. So thank you guys for tuning in. It's just getting fun. So now I'm learning just to stop and go with it. I appreciate you guys dealing with it, because, I'm just a guy who started a podcast sitting in his room. I don't have a microphone. I'm just doing it on a desk. Not a bunch of big equipment, just trying to give you guys the news and try to make use of this time. So this stuff is not financial advice. These are just things that I hear and go back and want to show you. I'll actually be going over, starting a series that looks into the UN, the World Health Organization, the IMF, the World Bank, and what the basis of that, starting with Lucius Trust. So this is something that I've been digging in and looking at, because all this ties into Bill Gates and kind of becoming investigative. Now, I can't go out, so I'm just going to show you information on here and do videos until, a year from now and build. And eventually I'll start doing let's do the whole real YouTube full out. Right now, this is just about getting information out to you. Now, before I go, I'm going to read you scripture as I always do. One nice little verse. This is from Hebrews chapter 11, verse 11. It goes like this. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. So, what is your faith in? I know my faith is first in Lord and my God, Jesus Christ. And then my faith is in what I research and what I see. And my faith then is in what I hope for. So, what is your faith in, guys? That's the question today. Let me know on the Twitter. Let me know here on our Anchor platform. You can let me know again on YouTube. You hit us up on Publish S. real quick, let's see before I go, let's see what is going on. By the way, look at that. Brave browser right there. Shout out to that. Let's go to CoinGecko real quick and see what is going on in the market as we close for the day. At this point in time, Bitcoin is sitting flat at $7,000. Had a big pump overnight, but still down 0.5% of the hour, but up 3.6%. As you can see this right here, guys. We have Ether, pretty much even on the hour, up 10% over the night, sitting in 171. I think it was around 159 last night. XRP was at 17.9 last night. Now it's at 18.7, sitting now down 0.06 on the hour, but up 2% on the day. So you guys know there's some stuff out there about the stable coins being possibly banned, but we still see $90 billion of value moved over the last 24 hours. So we will see what happens, especially with China getting ready to do this digital yuan and the other news. So guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you liked this video. I really hope you guys give me feedback. Subscribe, like, share, do the social media thing, because this is your boy Christian Israel, and you are tuning into the New Creation Capital podcast, a place where we discuss what happens in the world today, where we talk about stories that focus on current events, the stock market, and digital assets. This is not financial advice, but what we like to say here is make sure you buy low and sell high, guys. This is a new you, a new future, and a new creation. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until next time, guys, peace and love. Later.